Welcome to the Farmyard Garden. If you're new here, my name is Claire. I have just come back from an amazing 5 days at Silverstone. I think by what I'm wearing, it's pretty obvious where my allegiance lies. It was quite an emotional weekend for me seeing Lewis win his 9th British Grand Prix. Anyway, I'm back to the plot today, 5 days since I've been here, and do you know what? Things have grown, but there's also some things that are really struggling. One of the biggest problems is actually in the polytunnel. I came back today to a temperature recording of 5.5 degrees last night in the polytunnel. 5.5 degrees Celsius in July. I mean, that's just mad, isn't it? But it had also risen to 41.5 degrees when I came into the polytunnel this morning and all the doors were open. So the first job I did as I came back was to get Duncan to help me put some shade netting up on the south side of the tunnel. I know that's not going to help it overnight, but I think the swinging temperature isn't helping them either. 41 degrees is pretty hot for tomatoes, isn't it? Apart from the first plant in the polytunnel, which has always been a bit weird as soon as it germinated, the plants in the centre bed don't seem to be struggling as much as the ones on the actual south side of the tunnel. So we've put that shade netting up and hopefully that will help. Now, before I went away, I was worried that they were in need of a calcium supplement because that can cause leaf curl. So I did feed them with CalMag on the Wednesday before going away, and I was hoping that I'd come back to see them looking better, but no, they actually look worse. Everyone says tomatoes are really resilient plants and it's almost impossible to kill a tomato. Well, I think I'm doing a good job so far. Let's go and have a look. I can barely bring myself to look at them, the state of them. Look at that. Ugh. All doing such weird things with this extreme leaf curl. And obviously we've also got this purple spotting, which I'm guessing is the temperature fluctuation, but just, you know, the leaves feel crunchy. And yet they're not dry, but as I said, I really do think I am managing to kill tomato plants. This one here is a honeycomb F1, and well, look at the growing tip. Growing tip has shriveled up, and I do believe this tomato plant looks like it's dying. It has set a couple of tomatoes here, but well, it's not doing great, is it? I still don't understand what is happening with these two here. It's so strange how they're grown with their stems pretty much stacked directly on top of each other. It's really weird. Just so strange, the behaviour of tomatoes this year, and I don't know if it's something I've done wrong or whether it really is just the weather. I'm kind of feeling a little bit heartened by the fact that other people, as much as I don't want you to be struggling with your tomatoes, but the fact that I don't seem to be alone in having strange problems and poor growth with the tomatoes. We are also struggling with some flowers dropping off them, especially on this crushed heart. I've given them everything that they're supposed to need, so I'm not quite sure what to do next. Have you got any suggestions? Can I save them? What am I missing? What do I need to do for these plants? I'm a really inexperienced grower. It was my first season last year with a few donated tomato plants, and nothing went wrong. They just grew fine, no problem. Didn't get a huge amount of tomatoes from them, but had no pest problems, and they looked so healthy when I was chopping them down at the end of the season as well. It was really quite sad. So all of this is really quite new to me. The tomatoes which seem to be the happiest in here are actually these cherry brandywine, the potato leaf varieties. Look at them. They don't seem to be struggling with leaf curl. I have two of those growing. Another one here, and these obviously traditional tomato leaf varieties here have a little bit of leaf curl in the centre bed, but nothing like they do on the south side bed. And we have some beautiful tomatoes forming on this moneymaker variety here. Look at them. So not everything is a failure in here, but oh, it's not looking great. However, I do feel it's important to balance the bad that's going on in the polytunnel with the good. If I walk in and just look left, everything looks really healthy in here. The cucumbers are doing great. Even the loofah seems to be coming on a lot better now, and it's putting some male flowers out as well as the females with the baby loofahs behind them. So hopefully something might get pollinated there. And I do have a huge cucumber that I've come back to that really does need to get harvested. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. It's doing its best to hide, but can you see this back here? Wow, it's huge. It's so exciting. Look at that. Wow. I think that's a little bit overripe, to be honest. Wow, I'm glad I came home when I did. Otherwise, I might not have had a cucumber to eat if it had gone any more ripe than this. Look at that. Nature's brilliant. It always seems to be able to balance the frustrations and disappointments in the garden with giving you something to put a smile back on your face, doesn't it? As you can see, I do now have this shade netting up though behind me. So if it is a heat issue for them as well, I'm hoping that that will help. Within half an hour of installing this, the temperature in the polytunnel had dropped from 41 degrees to 33 degrees. I've thought about putting fans up in here to help, but generally we get good airflow through here because we have put the polytunnel in the prevailing wind. So I am genuinely at somewhat of a loss, but I do think the heat that this polytunnel gets in the day is one of the contributing factors to this problem, because that also carries on outside. Because if we look outside here to my once rather healthy and happy looking carrot boxes, you'll see that these carrots have started to bolt. I am debating leaving these ones so that I can use the seeds. It is mainly the rainbow carrots that are bolting, but obviously these are also facing south and they are getting the heat, no doubt, bounced back at them from the polytunnel. Maybe it's just too hot for them here and I need to think about planting something different here next year that perhaps gives a bit of height to offer some natural shade for the polytunnel. So what would you plant here this side of the tunnel? Because I'm starting to think carrots was not the best idea to put here. These later sown carrots do seem to be doing okay, but obviously they are different varieties. I've got the silver skin onions between these Amsterdam forcings, but you'll notice there's a missing row there. All of the silver skins have germinated. Not a single spring onion has germinated this year anywhere that I've sown them on the plot. And I've had different packets of spring onions as well, but not a single one. Don't know what's going on there. The other things struggling on the plot are still the squashes. The mashed potatoes aren't doing very good. They have put on some growth since last time, but they're still looking pretty poor, a little bit ropey. Again, they can't be enjoying these cold overnight temperatures. And I'm still struggling with the French beans, the dwarf ones especially, still very yellow, putting poor growth on, no flowers yet. When I think this time last year, I was sowing things and within 6 weeks I was starting to harvest the first of the French beans off the dwarf plants last year. They were such quick, prolific growers. And it's just hard to imagine how different things can be. You know, these have been in the ground now for a couple of months, some of them, and, well, the growth is just not there. Of course, now I've said that, I've noticed my first flowers coming on them, and they have definitely greened up and they are thickening up a little bit, aren't they? But the difference from last year is just absolutely astounding. And the climbing ones, well, they look pretty ropey, don't they? A few of them are starting to climb now, but, oh, am I going to get a harvest off them? I'm so glad that I planted quite a lot of French beans, because obviously there's those in the bed behind that came from the heated polytunnel at the local nursery, and they've stayed green, I have to say, but they haven't grown any since I planted them, and they've been in the ground a week now. And I mean, I'm not stressing over it. I've got enough of them planted that even if I get a poorer yield, I'm going to get something from them, I hope. And August and September may well surprise us and be absolutely glorious. But the benefit of having grown a few of these things last year is I do have this comparison. And I keep thinking back to last year when everyone said it was a terrible year and what a year to start growing. And then this year is even worse, isn't it? Oh, let's hope next year is better. Happy to say the peas that I planted out last time and the direct sown ones are continuing to grow, though they seem to be happier than anything. And I'm getting lots of pods on the alderman peas that are pretty much ready to pick now. And if we look right at the bottom of the alderman peas, the ones that I direct sowed a couple of weeks ago are starting to come up now, and hopefully will just fill up and give me a little bit of a succession when these ones die back. Poor growth again on the pumpkins. I've expected them to shoot off, but nope, they haven't done that yet, not even reaching the archway. I'm not sure the dream of walking under a pumpkin-laden archway is going to happen this year either. But again, as I keep saying, it's early days and things might just rocket off in the next few weeks. And, well, I really hope they do for all of us. Pumpkins in this manure store seem to be doing happier. Maybe that's because the manure is warmer on the roots, who knows? And this patty pan in the compost bin, look at that! That's looking amazing, isn't it? Obviously it's warmer in there, the compost itself, and the fact that it is sheltered on the sides from the wind, because the ones here out on the plot are looking pretty poor specimens by comparison. See, when you think I'm having some successes on the garden and everything looks nice and green, all is not always as it seems. I nearly forgot to show you something really, really funny. I'd forgotten that I'd put this here, and when I walked onto the plot, it made me jump a mile. Look at him. He needs a name. He's the cutest pheasant ever. He's made of metal, and I bought him at Gardener's World Live. Absolutely love him. Come on then, what should I name him? He needs a rhyming name. The pheasant. I'm relying on you to give him a good name. The sunflowers, they're getting pretty tall. We've had to stake them in quite a few times as we keep having storms. But they all are starting to put flower heads on, so fingers crossed for a nice crop of sunflowers along here. But I haven't brought you onto the garden to show you the sunflowers. I've brought you on here to show you the thing that's really struggling the most. And it seems it's a season-long story, this one. It's going to run and run, and the cause for great banter between my sister and myself, and that is the sweet corn. Before I went away, because we had such cold temperatures at forecast and a lot of wind and rain, I took drastic measures. Look, I gave them a windbreak, hoping that the wind kind of circles in this corner, and I was hoping that whilst that's great for pollination, that it was probably a bit too cold for them at the moment while they were still so delicate. So this was kind of a bit of a defence to see if it would help them. Shall I show you? Ali from My Rusty Garden said they needed to be knee-high by July the 4th. Well, I'm not very tall, but they're still not knee-high, more like mid-calf height. Rather worryingly, they are putting up a few flower heads, and I'm pretty certain they shouldn't be doing that. I have Googled the variety, and it does say that they're supposed to be 7 foot tall. So that's not 7 foot tall, is it? I did check, it did say 7 foot, not 7 inches, because they're more like 7 inches tall at the moment. Duncan has taken drastic measures, and he's been watering them with a bit of slurry water to try and get them to grow on. And he has succeeded a little bit in the sense that they are greener than they were before he started doing that. But, well, growth is really, really poor. But the worst thing on the plot at the moment, after the tomatoes, and probably worse than these sweet corns, are my aubergines. Look at them. I'm going to harvest what's on here now. I've left them on here because they needed a week withdrawal after spraying them for the aphids, but I just cannot control the aphid problem on them. And to be fair, I nearly didn't grow aubergines because I was warned that they are an aphid magnet. So I'm probably not going to grow them again next year. But that said, just look how beautiful they are. They're absolutely beautiful. I've been using a mix of neem oil with horticultural soap that is supposed to be for pests, and it just doesn't seem to do anything. Once I've sprayed them and I come in here the next day, there's aphids all over the floor, but they just keep coming back and back and back, and I realise they're born pregnant. So if you've got any extra tips for them, or would you just take them out of the greenhouse now and just kind of let them fend for themselves outside a bit? Because obviously I have all of my chilies in here as well, and they're not struggling too much with aphids on the chilies. They are going for the aubergines. So do I leave them in here and let them be that sacrifice plant that they take to first? Will they go for my chilies and peppers if I remove the aubergines? Again, I just don't know. I've never grown chilies before, and I certainly haven't grown aubergines before. I'm going to get them harvested, and then I'm going to be able to spray them again and just see how we go. The weird thing is, a couple of months ago we had a load of ants in here, and I have heard that ants farm aphids because the ants just suddenly disappeared and then the aphids took over. Maybe we should have left the ants here because perhaps they were eating the aphids for us. I am soaking these plants with the horticultural soap and neem oil mix, spraying the tops and the bottom of the leaves. I can give them a really good coating again today once I've harvested off the aubergines that can be harvested. But I'm at a loss what else to do. I mean, I just don't know how else to control it. And, well, I'm not controlling it. That's the problem, isn't it? It's such a shame for these plants because these aubergines look absolutely beautiful. I think one of the things I'm going to do with these plants is take off all of the really affected leaves. I mean, look how yellow they are. They're not serving the plant anymore. And I will put them in the council bin or just bag them up and put them in the dustbin. I'm not sure yet, but I don't want to put them in my compost bin. And then I'm going to spray what's left of the plant and just see if we can get ourselves on top of this. And then after that, I'm going to try and harvest some of the peppers because they'll probably need a bit of a spray afterwards just as a bit of a precaution. Let's get these sorted first. Not many leaves left now. This is my mixture. This is neem oil mixed with the horticultural soap. I'm just going to go ahead and spray both sides of the affected leaves. Obviously, I want to finish today on a high, and in my harvest basket I do have those aubergines. I have some more strawberries, I have a very overripe pepper here, and some buena malata chilies. And I'm just going to harvest, oh, nearly fell over, these jalapeno mammoths in as well. They're getting these marks on the skin that make me feel like perhaps they should be harvested before something goes awry with those as well. So I'm going to take those in, and if you can see these ones here, these are black night peppers, and I'm assuming these are overripe. Very vibrant, aren't they? Look at the size of that one. See, look at them. Pretty certain they shouldn't be this colour given that it's called black night, but I'm really happy with those. Going to put them in a bolognese tonight. And it's a really good reminder that even when you think things are starting to go wrong and it feels like everything's going to start going wrong, that great things are still happening on your plot. So there's aphids next door, we're all right in this greenhouse, and we've got a harvest of peppers. Absolutely brilliant. I'm off to Goodwood in a couple of days. While you're watching this, that's where I'll be. I'll catch you next week. Look after yourselves. Bye.